2 dead in Auckland shooting hours before city hosts Women's World Cup. A gunman opened fire in a central Auckland supermarket, killing 2 people and injuring 6 others, before being shot dead by police. The motive for the attack is unknown, but Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said there was no evidence of terrorism or links to previous incidents. The shooting happened hours before Auckland was due to host the opening ceremony and match of the Women's Rugby World Cup. U.S. soldier who crossed into North Korea has history of assault and detention. The U.S. soldier who was detained by North Korea after crossing the border from South Korea was identified as Alejandro Vergara, a 20-year-old private first class. Vergara had a history of disciplinary issues, including assault and detention, and had been demoted twice in the past year. He is believed to be the first U.S. service member to defect to North Korea since the 1960s. Drones are showing us sharks like never before. Researchers are using drones to study shark behavior, ecology, and conservation, revealing new insights into their lives and interactions with humans. Drones can capture stunning aerial footage of sharks swimming close to shore, hunting prey, and socializing with each other. Drones can also help prevent shark attacks by alerting beachgoers and lifeguards of their presence and movements. Will Canada finally win a World Cup? Canada's women's football team is ranked 4th in the world and has won 2 Olympic gold medals in a row, but has never lifted the World Cup trophy. The team is led by veteran captain Christine Sinclair, who is the all-time leading scorer in international football with 187 goals. The team is confident and determined to make history at the 2023 World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Famed U.S. hacker Kevin Mitnick dies aged 59. Kevin Mitnick, once dubbed America's most wanted hacker, died of a heart attack on Wednesday at his home in Las Vegas. Mitnick was arrested in 1995 after a 2-year manhunt by the FBI. He pleaded guilty to hacking into dozens of companies and government agencies, including Motorola, Nokia, Sun Microsystems, and NORAD. He later became a best-selling author, speaker, and security expert, helping clients protect themselves from cyberattacks. Ilha Malvinas. EU signs deal using Falklands Argentine name. The EU has signed a trade deal with Argentina using the name Ilha Malvinas for the Falkland Islands, sparking anger from the UK government. The UK says it has asked the EU to clarify its position on the sovereignty of the islands, which are claimed by both Britain and Argentina. Argentina hailed the deal as a triumph and a recognition of its rights over the islands. U.S. confirms its cluster bombs are in use in Ukraine. The White House says it is providing defensive weapons to Ukraine to help it deter Russian aggression, including cluster bombs that are banned by more than 100 countries. Cluster bombs are designed to scatter hundreds of smaller bomblets over a wide area, causing indiscriminate damage and leaving behind unexploded ordnance that can harm civilians for years. The U.S. says the cluster bombs are having an impact on Russian formations, but human rights groups have condemned their use as abhorrent and unlawful. Xi says China will follow its own carbon reduction path as U.S. climate envoy Kerry meets top officials in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping says China will follow its own path to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060, rejecting external pressure or interference. Xi's remarks came as U.S. climate envoy John Kerry met with top Chinese officials in Beijing to discuss cooperation on tackling climate change ahead of the COP28 summit in Egypt. China is the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases, but has pledged to peak its emissions by 2030 and reach net zero by 2060. Putin cut deal with Wagner to save his skin, MI6 chief says in rare speech. MI6 chief Richard Moore says Russian President Vladimir Putin cut a deal with Wagner Group, a private military company linked to his ally Yevgeny Prigozhin, to save his skin after a failed coup attempt by some Wagner members last year. Moore says Wagner Group is a dangerous and unaccountable force that operates in conflict zones around the world, often against Western interests and values. Moore also says MI6 is actively seeking to recruit Russian agents who are disillusioned with Putin's regime. Leader of Thailand's most popular party fails in final attempt to become PM. Pita Limjaroenrat, the leader of Thailand's Future Forward Party, FFP, has failed in his final attempt to become the country's prime minister, after the Senate blocked his bid. FFP won the most votes in the 2019 general election, but was dissolved by the Constitutional Court in 2020 for violating campaign finance laws. Limjaroenrat says he will continue to fight for democracy and reform in Thailand, which has been ruled by a military-backed government since a coup in 2014. Tunisia says it will not be reception center for returning migrants. Tunisia has rejected a proposal by the EU to host a reception center for migrants who are returned from Europe or rescued at sea. Tunisia says it is already struggling with its own economic and social problems and cannot bear the burden of hosting more migrants. The EU has been seeking to cooperate with North African countries to curb irregular migration and asylum flows across the Mediterranean. I'm just so grateful. Castaway and his dog who survived months adrift at sea back on dry land. A Colombian fisherman and his dog who survived for months adrift at sea have been rescued and reunited with their families. Angel Sanchez and his dog Blanquita were fishing off the coast of Colombia in September when their boat's engine failed and they were swept away by strong currents. They survived on rainwater, fish, and coconuts, and were eventually spotted by a Panamanian naval patrol near the San Blas Islands. Rare Trojan world may share the same orbit as another planet. Astronomers have discovered a rare type of planet that may share the same orbit as another planet around a distant star. The planet, named TOI 178c, is a Trojan world, meaning it orbits at the same distance from its star as another planet, but 60 degrees ahead or behind it. Trojan planets are very rare and difficult to detect, but they can provide clues about the formation and evolution of planetary systems. Fake Twitter profiles, Wikipedia editing and PR battles. Inside the push to greenwash the COP28 climate summit. A BBC investigation has exposed a network of fake Twitter profiles, Wikipedia edits, and PR campaigns that are trying to influence public opinion and policy ahead of the COP28 climate summit in Egypt. The network is linked to a group called Climate Intelligence Foundation, CLINTEL, which promotes climate denial and skepticism, and has ties to fossil fuel interests and right-wing politicians. The network has been targeting key figures and topics related to COP28, such as climate finance, carbon markets, and renewable energy. Venezuela's ex-spy chief extradited from Spain to U.S. to face drug charges. Venezuela's former spy chief Hugo Carvajal has been extradited from Spain to the U.S. to face drug trafficking charges. Carvajal was a close ally of former Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, but later turned against his successor Nicolas Maduro and supported opposition leader Juan Guaido. Carvajal was arrested in Spain in 2019 after fleeing Venezuela. He claims he is innocent and a victim of political persecution.